All right, boys, there's a new toy in the shop. Check this out. Pew, 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 pew. YesWelder has been killing it and continuing to innovate in their product line for entry-level hobbyists like me. This is the YWM211P, and this is the pulse MIG, spool MIG, stick welder, and lift TIG, all in one unit, and I'm excited to try it out. I reviewed a YesWelder a few months ago, and I thought it was pretty good. The big question is, does it do aluminum? And in that particular welder, it did not. So this one is what they call an aluminum welder, and it's an aluminum MIG welder. So even though this is an aluminum welder, it is not a true AC welder like you would have on an AC TIG welder, where it's alternating current between positive electrode, negative electrode. One does cleaning action, the other one does penetration. That's not what this is, but it does have the pulse capability, and the pulse capability is there's a set current, and then you can drop it down to a base current, and you can alternate back and forth really quickly between base current and reduced current, and that'll give you the sort of feeling of an AC TIG, but it's for MIG, and so that's what this will do. It's also a MIG for, you know, stainless steel, regular steel, and like I said, you guys asked for something that can do aluminum. This is probably the easiest way to get started with aluminum. And full disclosure, I have never done MIG welding of aluminum before. So this will be a first for me, which is actually good for you, because if you're just buying this machine, then you're gonna be a first timer most likely as well. So let's get into it. I will dump some of the specs as we go through some of the demos. Now I've loaded up this 2-pound spool of ER 4043. It's 030 diameter. And one of the first questions is probably going to be, why do I need this spool? It already has inside here, it already has a spool and a dispenser right here. This is the wire feed part of the welder that throws wire down the MIG torch, down the hose out to the gun. This is the aluminum wire. This happens to be the smallest it comes, 30 thousandths, and it's super soft. It's almost like solder. So if you're trying to push this through a 10-foot hose, you're pushing it, it's just gonna wanna bend. And once it bends, it kind of stays bent. So it's super soft. It's really difficult to push through the welding gun. You're probably gonna end up, you know, getting it all balled up back here in the feed, and it's just not consistent when you bend the hose, and there's a lot of friction. The welder does come with an extra sleeve that you can put in for aluminum welding, but you should probably have a little thicker wire, and you probably shouldn't have the softer alloy. You should have some of the 5000 series alloys that happen to be a little stiffer. And just for comparison, here's an equivalent size steel rod. So when I go to push this, it won't, I mean, it bends, but it's not gonna, you know, it bends right back. It's got a lot more stiffness to it. I can push a lot harder, and this will travel through a conventional MIG gun no problem. And I should say right away that the welder does not come with the spool feature. That is an extra add-on piece. It's part number LB10150. The machine itself is not too heavy. I would say that's maybe 20, 25 pounds, something like that. It's really not bad at all. Some scrap aluminum. This is a pure argon tank. That's what we need for aluminum welding. This is the big one, but I'm gonna set it for, I think, about 20 cubic feet per hour. And it's got a cool button on the front. We can purge it and watch what the actual flow rate is when the gas is flowing. But that should be close. On the back of the machine, this is where the gas comes in. Pretty straightforward. Make sure that's nice and tight so we don't lose any gas. This is the on-off switch. And this machine will run on either 110 or 220. It comes with this adapter plug. If you want to run 110, you can. But I got this already connected to my 220 volt supply, so we should be good to go to the maximum settings. If you do run on 110, it just has a little bit of reduced capacity. Instead of, for instance, instead of like on the MIG welding, instead of a full capacity of 200 amps, it goes down to 160. And it does come with a setup chart here. This is the aluminum column 4043 or 5356. We got the 4043, and my material is 1/8 inch, which happens to be this one. It's saying set it for 150 amps. Actually, no, 160 amps for the 30 thousandths wire. But the machine says it'll go all the way up to 1/4 inch, even on aluminum. Aluminum and steel, 1/4 inch is the max. Okay, here we go. First pass, no practice. And I got the stick out length here is about 3/8 of an inch. And I'm gonna start here and I'm gonna push the weld towards me. Here we go. Looks like we might need a little bit more gas coverage in the beginning because it had some residue there, but let me show you up close. I mean, it did put it together. It looks like it did, you know, erode that surface a little bit. These pieces weren't fitted up 100% tight, so I'm going to drop the current down a little bit and see how that changes. Also increase the wire speed, because it looks like it started to spray a little aluminum there. This time I reduced the current to 150 and I increased the wire speed slightly. Okay, that was totally off. Not enough wire speed on that one, so let's go back and make an adjustment. Yeah, after a little bit more experimentation, I think I found a setting that might work better for this material at least, and for this filler size. This is the last weld here. I did clean it off a little bit with some Scotch-Brite, but it's a nice, pretty nice fillet weld. I'm going to keep the same settings and try to do a butt weld, see what that's like. I've turned my gas flow up to 30, and I'm still getting a lot of black soot. This is 5052 aluminum, and like I said, this is 4043. So I don't know how to make that any better, other than I think it kind of is what it is. This one looks a little bit tall here in the beginning, like it needs a little bit more of the current at the start. So I'm going to change the settings to have more start current, and we'll try something like that again. The soot does wipe off. I think my piece has moved a little bit. I gotta do that one again. Okay, with a little more start current, it does keep the beginning part of the bead a little bit lower. I had to start twice because my piece shifted on the table. But that's what we're getting. I have the ending current all the way down to 0, and I get a little bit of crater there at the end. This is something that I'm not used to with the TIG welder because you're able to control that. But you know, this is not bad at all. I'm pretty impressed with the kind of welds we're getting. That's the regular pulse setting. I'm gonna try the regular MIG setting, and I'm also gonna try the double pulse setting. I'll try the double pulse setting now, and that's supposed to kind of mimic the TIG welding behavior just a little bit more. The pulse setting, when the current goes down, it's gonna allow the puddle to stabilize, get round, and cool the puddle just a little bit, and then it hits it again with more power as you advance the torch. So I think that's supposed to give you that kind of stack of dimes look a little bit. See how it looks. Okay, you can really hear the pulsing. Now that one looked like it wasn't actually hot enough. So I'm going to increase the max current, because what happens is about 50% of the time you can adjust the duty cycle, but 50% of the time it's a lot less current. So just need to change the settings and see how the double pulsing works. Okay, the start and stop, I tried not to start on top of the previous one, but this section right here, that's the double pulsing, and it seemed to do a little bit better job of, keeping the puddle easy to see, and also a little bit better on the shielding on that one. It wasn't as sooty. This one right here is double pulse, still has that problem of, starting kind of cold and finishing kind of warm. So maybe it's got too much power altogether. If you look at the back side, it's definitely penetrating, so definitely might have too much weld current in that one. This one was probably too much as well. So let's back the settings down, get some new pieces, and see if we can't make the double pulsing work great. Okay, something happened there in the middle where I kind of lost the puddle. Let's try again. So right there, you're now starting to see how the puddle is getting that stack of dimes look to it. Just on this one here, I traveled much quicker, trying to see how the welder behaved at a higher travel speed. And then this one was traveling much slower. So still getting the hang of it, you guys. But let me do one perfect weld, or what I think is the best I can do, and then we'll move on to some thinner metal. All right, so now for some of the settings and some of the difficulties I had setting it. So as I told you before, I wanted to try the thinner wire in the spool gun, kind of worst case, 030. And the wire is provided by YesWelder, and the machine is locked out. It doesn't allow you to select 0.03 wire. And that's what I bought. It comes with the rollers for 0.03, it comes with the tips for 0.03, the MIG tips, but the machine itself will not let you select 0.03. Even at the lower amperage settings, it's locked out. So you can't adjust the wire speed either. So what ends up happening is I'm adjusting the arc length all the way to the minimum. And I would probably like to go even less, but the machine only has a certain variance in the settings. You can't go hog wild. And when I do set it for the preferred, according to the chart, I had really bad welds. I had it burning all the way back and the wire was sticking to the electrode. In fact, at one point it burned so far back that it damaged the MIG nozzle. Let me show you the nozzle. See how it damaged the end of the nozzle there? The arc was going crazy and it was actually eroding the tip as opposed to the workpiece, which was kind of strange. But like I said, rather than go back and get the 035 wire, which the machine has preset settings for, I decided to just get the best weld I could, and that's what I showed you. I really want to try something thinner because I'm a car guy and most metal on your car is pretty thin. Aluminum is not so prevalent in vintage cars, but I like to make, little brackets and different things like for the intakes and stuff like that. It's typically pretty thin. Almost forgot, guys, this is the regular non-pulsed aluminum. Yeah, not bad without the pulse too. I was able to release a little bit of tension on the feeder, and that looks pretty good. So that little section right there and that little section right there is when the feeder was working correctly, and those welds aren't bad. There's a nice little section there where it was non-pulsed mode, working pretty well. I have to confess, I broke down and bought another roll of welding wire. I was trying to get it to work on this thinner metal. This is 16th inch aluminum, and it sort of works, but I kept having this problem of it completely balling up the electrode and the wire just getting stuck onto the electrode. So basically what I need is more wire speed, but you can't do that. You have to operate within the parameters that you're given with the way the manufacturer has this set up. So the only thing I can do is go to the 035 wire. This is also 4043. It's just going to be a little bit bigger diameter, and so that's how the machine is what the machine is expecting. I couldn't get the wire feed to work fast enough with the 030 wire. Also, I found they have a new nozzle, so I ended up getting another nozzle. Okay, back in business. See what it's doing? It's just welding itself to the tip because the settings are just not even close. It's trashed. I'm not sure what that finishing arc was. Seems like it's got a mind of its own, but I got a nice weld there for a second. Let me show you. So the weld was looking great until it got to the very end. This is where the gun was malfunctioning, and then at the very end, the arc wouldn't stop. I'm not sure why it did that. There is a post flow set, but that's just the airflow, not the, that's the argon flow, not for the arc to stay on. That's kind of weird how it was doing that. Okay, that one worked perfect. I have no issues with that one. That was a very consistent one. That's a nice looking weld on there. Just clean it up just a tad. So there's that 16th inch aluminum. That weld there is pretty nice. I could live with that one. Okay, that was the pulse setting on 16th inch 5052 aluminum with the 035 wire. I had it set for 92 amps. Let me just check the, and 15.8 volts. So when it does work, it actually welds really nice. This is a almost ideal weld on 1/8 inch. And then this guy here, 16th inch, also ideal. I'm just having some trouble getting consistent results. Sometimes it feels like the wire hangs up or it doesn't deliver it consistently. And a few times the arc was still going after I let the trigger off. So I'm not quite sure why that is, and it doesn't appear to be a setting because sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't do it. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments below about the aluminum. I'll do my best to help you guys. Like I said, I've never used an aluminum MIG welder before. If there's something you know that I did wrong, let me know. So to give the rest of the machine a good workout, I'm gonna go back to some regular old steel and try the pulse method on steel. It does seem to have some good benefits. So I'm gonna take the spool off. We're gonna position a regular set of, I like 030 wire, so I'm gonna go 030 steel, and we'll just run some 1/8 inch plate and see what that's like. Also, I wanna try, it has a spot welding feature. So I want to give that a try on some regular steel too. So give me a minute, I'll switch out the roll, and then we'll be right back with some steel. Okay, this is 1/8 inch steel with the pulse setting on. And it just got clogged again, first time. There we go. I'm giving it a long stick out, but it's still having a hard time getting the arc going. That's where I had a hard time starting the first time. Then I went right next to it and it got a pretty good weld. A little bit of splatter, but not too much. Arc is pretty erratic, but it does do a pretty nice weld. You just got to kind of get used to that sound, and it's hard to see how the arc is happening because it's constantly changing. Okay, now I've dialed in the spot function, so let's try that out. This is supposed to run for 3 seconds, so let's just do it on here, and then we'll try some punched sheet metal. Yeah, so it really just gives you a timer for 3 seconds. Let's try again. Just gonna punch some small holes. This is only 3/16. But let's just try and see what happens. So in the automotive world, we would have 2 panels, sandwiched on top of each other, and access is difficult with a pinch welder. So we're just going to simulate those pinch welds by drilling this hole, punched holes, and we're going to weld these 2 pieces together through the hole. So we're just going to go in there and start in the middle. You can either go clockwise or counterclockwise and just finish out the circle. So I'm going to set it up for probably just, in this size hole, it's only going to take like 1.5 seconds. I'm going to try 1.5, see how we do. So I kept the trigger pulled until it shut off, and I got it to weld pretty good around the corner. It's just a little bit tall. So I think what I'll do now is I'll lift it up off the table with the vice clamp so there's no heat sink on the bottom, and we might turn the current up just a little bit. Try that again. Still stands up pretty tall. A lot of times you need to grind these anyways. So I'm going to go a little bit more current and a little bit less voltage. So still a little more practice to do, but the last few were pretty good. This one here is not bad at all. This one just missed the end of the hole a little bit. Just getting used to that timer, because normally I'm watching when the hole fills, but this is just half a second, hitting it pretty quick. But I'll show you a close-up of that one. Those are the paces I wanted to put it through. We tried aluminum welding. We did not try aluminum in this spool here. That requires the different alloy 5356. And we tried some steel welding, and I think it's perfectly normal as a steel welder. It will do flux cord welding. I don't have the wire. I used both types of gas. I used argon gas and the CO2 mix with argon that I just demonstrated here with the steel. So because I have gas, I don't really feel a need to do the flux core or the stick welding. But if you're working outside or you need the stick welder, this machine can do it. I tested a YesWelder previously that had the TIG torch included, and it worked out great. I don't think it would be any different on this machine. As far as I can tell, all the settings and the functionality of the TIG is the same. It's a lift TIG, which means there's no high frequency start. You just lift the torch to create the arc, and once its arc is started, you can just manipulate it, run it around however you want. It does also require that you turn the gas on and off manually, which is something you got to remember to do. There's a little knob right there on the torch. So I didn't test that function either, but it'll definitely do TIG. Like I said, not aluminum TIG, but it'll do steel TIG, no problem. The other thing I like about it is all these controls here on the front are completely removable, and you can switch the polarity right here on the front. So the machine's lightweight, easy to move around, easy to take these cords off, put it in the back of your car, plug it into 110, and like I said, it's an entry-level welder, perfectly good welder for what you want to do. So what would I use this machine for? I would use it to, build like some aluminum fixtures. For instance, on my transmission, I need to build a fixture that's going to help me align the shift forks. So I got some plates and some other plates, got to bridge them together. This is a nice welder for doing work like that, where you just want to put something together quickly, or you can build a roof rack or something for your boat. Anything like that out of aluminum works out great. It doesn't replace a TIG welder. The TIG welder is just much more delicate when it comes time to controlling how the arc starts, how the arc finishes, how and when you add material, and you have all these parameters you can fine tune and adjust. This doesn't do that, but it's an entry-level MIG machine. It's designed to be usable quickly. The TIG welding is great, it's nice, but it takes a long time to learn how to do all those things. You're typically using a foot, and you're using your left hand and your right hand, and you're putting all the things together. That takes time. This, like I said, was the first time I ever tried it, and I was able to get decent welds. So it just takes practice, like any welding, it takes some practice. This is, like I said, a great machine to start with. If you want to purchase the welder, I'm going to put the links in the description below. You can get, I think, 10% off if you use my code. That is just a thank you for buying it directly from YesWelder. And I didn't get paid for this review at all. I gave my honest opinion on it. I think it's good for the entry-level person. They did provide the welder, and I'm going to keep it as a backup for doing MIG or whatever else it might need to do, quick and dirty aluminum welding. Maybe I'll figure out a little bit more on the spool if I have more time. So thanks for hanging out. This is my second YesWelder review. Hopefully you get the impression of what the machines are like, and what some of the settings are like, and what the restrictions are like. So sometimes restrictions are good when you're just beginning. Other times they can be a little bit annoying and a little bit selective on the materials you can use and the different ranges. So for instance, on doing those little round spot welds, the recommended setting on the inside of the cover here, I think was way too light. Typically you like to run those with a little bit higher current. So it gives you a good starting point, but as you get more experience, you'll just want to crank those things up a little bit, or sometimes even dial them back if you're having trouble burning through or whatever the case might be. Those are just suggestions. Every welder is a little bit different. It's like a signature. Everyone has a little bit different signature, and people hold the torch differently, hold the arc length differently. Travel speeds are all different. Travel paths are different from different welders. So like I said, great entry-level welder. Get one, use it to practice, improve, improve, improve. It'll be a long time before your skill would outdo this welder. It's got a lot of advanced functions because it's a transistor-based welder. You got a lot of great functions, like I said, with that pulsing and the dual pulsing. Really could be used to your advantage. So thanks for watching. Check it out. See you next week.